Welcome, everybody, to another episode of The Current Status. I'm Pumla Schmidt, and I'm joined by my fellow two other co-hosts, Holly and Teresa. Y'all want to introduce yourselves, and we can start our show for today.
Sure. So my name is Teresa Miller. You can find me on Twitter as at 24/7 IT Connect. And Holly.
Hi, I'm Holly Lehman. You can find me on Twitter at Lehman__Holly. And I'm so excited to have everyone on the show today. It is going to definitely be a fun one. We get to chat with our friend, Dona Sarkar. You might know her as Miss Do the Thing. We also know her as Miss PowerApps. So Donna, take it over. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And first of all, thank you for just joining us on the show today. I'm excited to hear about all the things.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and on The Current Status. I am excited to be crashing these lovely ladies. As I've just learned, they've been doing the show since 2014, and they are all extraordinary people who happen to work in tech through very different contexts. So it's going to be fun to have a good chat with them. I am a cloud advocate on the Microsoft Cloud Advocacy org thing or whatever, where we focus heavily on learning new technology and helping our customers learn it in a way where they can use it right away to solve their business problems. My specialty is focused on this concept called Fusion Devs, where we combine low-code tech like Power Platform, along with high-code tech like .NET, and tech that historically people don't associate with Microsoft, like Java. So that is my team, and I love being able to bring together all these worlds of citizen devs, meaning non-traditional coders, along with traditional coders to solve business problems.
Disclaimer, Donna and I are on the same team. It's our same organization, so we're actually coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is one thing that's interesting about what you do that I've learned that a lot of people don't realize is that each of you specialize in something that's a little bit different. I think sometimes that title kind of gets everybody lumped into one thing. And so I think it's really unique to have two of you on the call focused on two different sides of Microsoft or areas of Microsoft. Talking, Donna, about what you are focused on with PowerApps, it's very interesting because I've heard pros and cons from people. And I personally, on my team, we just recently, I think I've told you, we use PowerApps so that we can create a program to simplify our own search engines. And so I can see the definite benefit of it because the person on my team that did it doesn't code. For other people, they might have this curiosity as to why something that you don't have to use code for. Tell us a little bit about the background of how it got started and why it's such a benefit, because there are two sides to that PowerApp story.
Totally. It really started because we, as Microsoft, and me just personally, I've always believed that everyone in the world should learn to code. And this stemmed from this deep-seated belief that tech is a superpower. And I've experienced this myself. I grew up through extremely not well-off upbringing in Detroit, Michigan. And because I had the opportunity and the privilege to study computer science, I've been able to get an extraordinary job. I've gotten a job that has lasted for 20 years in an industry that's just only growing and thriving. And unlike most of the people I grew up with, my job hasn't been made obsolete. My industry hasn't been shipped overseas. I never need to worry about employability. Not one day have I had to think, am I employable? Because tech is such an amazing industry that keeps on growing more every single day. So I used to believe that everyone in the world should learn to code because it will help them be more employable. But Microsoft came to this conclusion before I did, which is not everyone in the world is going to be able to learn to code for a variety of reasons. Namely, they don't want to. And second, they don't have time. Like, people just don't have time. Learning to code is a process. That's not like a thing you do in a weekend. It's like you go to computer science school, or you take a boot camp, or you teach yourself free on a free code camp. But you have to devote a very large chunk of your life to doing this. And the expectations are ridiculous, right? Like, you have to do projects and build up a GitHub profile and share 100 days of code, have a portfolio, do unpaid work. There's a humongous list of things you need to do before you can become a software engineer. So people such as ourselves who have jobs, families, responsibilities can't just randomly say, oh, I'm going to learn to code, and then it be an easy journey.
I don't know how to code.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't either.
and you know what? I'm in. Yeah,
I've
Teresa. Yeah, we're in
I've never
infrastructure.
liked it. Just to be honest.
I can't stand coding, and I have a great job. So
The fact
yeah,
that
this
four of
whole
us,
no code thing is
right?
you don't need it to be in IT. You don't need you know
You don't.
it's a myth.
It's a myth, and I used to believe this to be true. I used to believe that everyone should learn coding, like really, like your grandparents, coal miners, steel mill workers, kids.
Oh, I racked
Everyone-
and stacked servers and healed.
Exactly. So I used to believe this, and then I started working on Power Platform, and it completely changed my mind. And I've never worked on something that has changed my mind so dramatically. And I realized there are people with the most non-technical job in the world, but if they learn to build apps that run on their phones, or they learn to build chatbots, or they learn to build automation, their life becomes better without having to become a software engineer first. So that's why I'm a big believer in low code movement. Huge believer.
It's awesome because I think like I when I went through my original undergraduate, that's where I got to try like coding, and I don't consider PowerShell true
No, it's
coding.
not. PowerShell's not
So
coding.
like I
That's not code.
PowerShell, like yeah, but code is it doesn't click for me. So
PowerShell's not coding. Ask Jeffrey Snover.
but
He'll
I
tell you
think
it's not
I
coding.
think everyone should try it. Like I think you should try it, and you're either gonna love it or hate it. And if you hate it, then that's where this PowerApps thing I think is really valuable. So can you tell me a little bit about some of the things that I can do? So like if I wanted to try PowerApps, what can I create?
I think the easiest thing to do is to solve a problem in your immediate life or job. So we all have something we write down on sheets of paper. Like every one of us has a thing. For you all, it can be the schedule for the show. It could be, for me, who runs a fashion company, it could be inventory management of all of the product I happen to have in my storage. For someone with like a very busy schedule, maybe kid schedule and family schedule, it might be that. Like what's happening on Monday, what's happening on Tuesday, and just like a central place where everyone in your family can contribute their stuff, and it lays it out into a schedule with random dependencies. Like for this to happen, here's the things that need to happen. But I find it very useful to have a project, like a very specific thing you want to solve, and not something huge. Something where you want to replace these like sheet of paper you add to or fill out every week with an app that runs on everyone's phone. Because everyone's got a phone all the time.
I guess the easiest thing to call it would be like it's a solution. It's a solution for your many different problems that you may have.
That's right.
So Teresa, let me tell you about how, can I share like our little team story about how we use PowerApps?
You should, because this isn't gonna like solve my cooking challenges. So
well, when I think about the stress that it took away from our team. So with our team, our whole premise is collecting feedback on Azure, like Azure wide. So that's 100+ web services, okay? And that meant we had multiple spreadsheets. And each one of us would have to go into each one of those spreadsheets to go find what feedback was assigned to us, and then pull those pieces of feedback out, put them into another spreadsheet, to then download that spreadsheet, to then share the spreadsheet. That's a lot of spreadsheets, right?
A lot of spreadsheet sharing.
And so now what for us PowerApps has done is we created a program that's internal only, so I won't share the name, but it's a program where it'll ingest that feedback now based on whatever that looks like. It could be your ADO, it could be a spreadsheet, it could be, however you've decided to create the code or non-code. And it'll then I just click on my name, it'll filter it immediately. It's already ingested all the feedback. I don't have to go into 20+ spreadsheets now. I look at my information, I read the feedback, I do my job. And it's really simplified what I do on a daily basis. I looked at a spreadsheet and I would just cringe. And now I don't have to look at a spreadsheet, much less 20 of them, because of what we've created with PowerApps.
Backend database? Is there a database with PowerApps?
So that's the thing. That's why I really like PowerApps and Power Platform in general. we don't make you move your data source. A key thing customers have said is, we've been using whatever data source. I don't care if it's like one you made yourself, right? It could be Excel, it could be SharePoint, it could be Donna's database that I DIY'd in college. It can be Salesforce, it can be SQL, it can be whatever you want your backend data store to be. But PowerApps connects to it via one of its 350 different connectors. So the default one that everyone loves to use is Excel. There's a bunch of things. It says generate Power App from existing data source. There's like literally a button, and it'll give you a list. And then one of them is Excel. You navigate to your Excel wherever it is. It could be on a OneDrive for business. It can be on a SharePoint. It can be on your local machine. Does not matter. It'll generate you a Power App based on your data store. A lot of the most common data store, though, guess what? SharePoint. Like,
Really?
4 million people who use SharePoint as the backend data store for PowerApps. There's a free low-code one. The main reason people use SharePoint is they know how to use it. Like, I have to say,
I would have thought it was more Excel, because Excel is the database of the world.
But I would have thought
Every corporation runs off Excel as their database.
And then they eventually navigate to SharePoint. But I tell everyone, the best data store is that it's like sunscreen. The best data store and the best sunscreen are the one you're going to use. That's it, right? It's not like, it's like, there are very good ones. Like there's the one that comes with Power Platform that we recommend everyone uses called Common Data, but it's also free. We recommend people use it because it's a relational database. It's way easier to store your data, pivot your data, slice and dice your data. But when someone has been using SharePoint for like the last 12 years, step one, move your data source, is a non-starter. So we say step one, keep your data store. Step two, build a Power App that connects to your data store. So that is the key. There's also a way to build custom connectors if you do have a DIY data store that none of us have ever heard of. So there are many, many, many companies, especially organizations, really governments, who have a data store that ain't none of us heard of, and that's fine. Build a custom connector and pull your data into your Power App. But you do that on your own. It's like pretty straightforward. This is when you'll probably want a developer type person around to build your custom connector, because that is JavaScript and it is code. But in general, you can use whatever data store you want to use.
So you mentioned the mobile device. So this enables mobility of the application.
That's right.
So how do I get it to my team? Do I have to have some kind of, I don't know, VPN, or can I literally register these apps with the Apple Store and the, how does that work?
They're sandbox and they're internal. So they're supposed to be for an organization or a group of people of some sort. So the example I share with everyone is I've made my own, company using Microsoft 365 dev program called PrimaDona. So I do have my own company. I've created a M365 dev account called PrimaDona, and I have 24 users in there. I am a user, my co-founder is a user, all of the tailors we work with all over the world, they're all users. So when you have a tenant, right, a Microsoft 365 tenant, and you've got 24 users, you can share your Power Apps within your users.
So it's just a simple authentication back to your Microsoft. Fantastic.
You go to Google Play Store, Apple iStore, or App Store, and you look for Power Apps, and you install this app called Power Apps, and it's a sandbox, and all of your Power Apps live in that thing once you authenticate into it. So that way you don't have to sign in, sign out, none of this. It's all of the Power Apps you build for that company, like for PrimaDona, all run in one sandbox. Yeah, but you're also not leaking customer data to random people in the world, which is good.
Very important.
Very important.
Governance, security, compliance, all that good stuff.
All the good stuff. Yeah.
So I hate to sway from this technical talk, which is awesome, but this PrimaDona, what is this?
What is this?
So tell us more about this.
I've loved fashion my whole life. For me, it's just another form of engineering. And I finally stopped admiring fashion and started creating it about 8 years ago. I'm a dev. I can make anything. I can make fashion. These are not the same thing, it turns out.
Yeah.
But I enrolled myself in fashion school here in Seattle, not here, where I was in Seattle. And I went on Tuesday, Thursday nights, and all day Saturdays to fashion school. And I learned everything. Like if you've ever watched Project Runway, you have no idea what they're talking about half the time. I learned exactly what they're talking about. Like cutting, sewing, draping, pattern making, size grading, this and that. I learned to make everything. And this was a very technical school. So you learn everything from a simple like tank top all the way to a men's jacket, to a ball gown, to a corset, everything. I know how to make any garment in the world now because of fashion school. So once I did this, I'm like, I'm just going to make all my own clothes. Like fashion is basic. I'm just going to make it all myself. So the dev factor kicked in and I'm like, I'm only going to wear things I made. So I did for years. I think I'm on like year 8 of only wearing things I made.
Awesome.
And random people would stop me. I mean, like real random people would like get off the bus. People would chase me across the street. People would interrupt me when I'm on stage. Be like, where did you get your dress, pants, top, whatever, whatever? I'm like, oh, thank you. I made it. And after saying that enough times, people are like, oh, where do you sell your stuff? And I always am like, I sell my stuff. No, I just make them for me. People are like, why? And I'm like, because why would anyone buy my stuff? And people are like, it's a sign when enough people ask you where you got something that maybe they want it too. It's a basic customer 101. I'm like, but it never occurred to me that I can be a fashion designer, but it never occurred to me in 100 years I can be a fashion business owner. Just that concept did not occur to me at all because I'm a software engineer. I'm not gonna be a fashion business owner. That's a real job, like job. Not doing it. But then I realized like the fact that I'm terrified of this is a sign that I should probably do it. And I didn't want to do it, but because I was terrified. I love making fashion. I love fabric. I love draping. I love like creating new things. But the thought of making things that other people would wear was a very frightening thought. So I just had to get over my fear and start my company. I started last August 15th. And my goal was by the time I turned 40 years old, which was this past August, that I would have a profitable business. So I've spent the last year and a bit like hustling like crazy to make this business profitable. So that is PrimaDona. Our tailors are all over the world. I am one of them. But our tailors are all women who use their income to create a better life for their families. So I have tailors in Nigeria, Jakarta, Seattle, and Woodinville, actually, right near where Holly lives, soon in Barbados. But they're all places I've been, and these are women I know very well and women who I love, and I want to make sure that they have extraordinary lives. So that is the reason for PrimaDona. It's to empower women to earn a badass income and, live a life of creating beautiful things for other women.
I personally think that's awesome. I was actually, I don't say the fashion industry, but I was an assistant buyer for a local, a regional department store chain here like 20 years ago.
What was it called?
Wow. I can't even I'm thinking wow, my son was a baby then. I was actually like pregnant with one. Yeah. So I was junior swimwear, coats and dresses.
Wow. Yep.
Yes. Oh, God. Let me just tell you, I got all the samples. Yep. I had a closet full of stuff. No, it's so interesting, that world, people think, oh, it's fashion, but it's actually very similar to technology. It's very, very similar. And sometimes I think it's more challenging than tech, because tech, sometimes things just break, right? With fashion, I think you have a little bit more, you can smooth things over a little bit better, right? There's more emotion. It's just it's more human. And I think the human side of things tend to be, I think for me, it just works better when it's just like zeros and ones. It's very difficult because there's no gray space. But tech is becoming more gray though, which I think is great because the world is gray. I mean, there's all sorts of colors. So it's amazing. That's awesome that you have this company.
It's so funny you say that, because I think it's the opposite, where I think fashion is so subjective Like I can
True, it
make
is.
something, and like two of you can say this is great, and the third person can say that's the ugliest thing I've ever seen. What is wrong with you? Versus tech is so binary, and I love it so much because did it work or not? Right? Did your code run? Did it do the thing? There's no negotiating. And I'm not a
Black
UI
and white.
dev.
It's very black
it's like
and white. Yeah.
black and white, and I love that, and that's why I think I've been like pretty successful in tech because I'm a very black and white person. I'm like, did it work or not? Because I'm like, oh, I don't have feelings and I don't have any emotions. So for me, tech works really well. People are like, oh, I don't want to hurt your feelings, but I'm like, I don't have any. Just tell me. And they're like, okay. So,
But but the way the world is changing, though, everything
now
is
it is.
blending. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah, now it
and
is.
it's like because you basically these business analyst roles now, they're that middle ground because you have to understand the business. You have to have the emotions in order
That's
to be
right.
successful in your business now. Back in the day, awesome. It's black and white,
Totally.
You didn't have to worry about the business. And Teresa can, speak on that too. I mean, back in the day, it was like we did our job and it was like, here, build a server, rack and stack. I'm done. See ya. Boom. Right.
Like nerd out, like leave me alone.
Yeah, I installed your app. I'm done. Here you guys are. Here's the manual, right? Now it's it's different. We've got to shake hands. We got to rub some elbows.
We're not shaking hands. There's no shaking hands right now.
We're waiting.
But yeah, it's a lot more personable, and I love the way it's going because and you're right. Fashion it is very subjective because it's a soft world. It's a human world. And
it brings out emotion in people. And I think that there's an emotion that can come with tech based on what you're doing.
Yes.
But there's definitely an emotion when you put on a certain outfit. Or it could be good, it could be bad. It can make you feel great about yourself, or this isn't the one for me. But I think and listening to everybody, the one thing when we talk about Donna as the guest, I think that there's two things that stand out to me with you that I think we should touch on for a second. One, I love that you've kept to who you are. You're in a skirt, you're in heels, you're you. And I think that that's something that people tend to forget is to bring yourself, your genuine self every day, and you can still do tech and you can have side hustles and you can have multiple talents, and those talents help you be better at your day job every day. The other piece that I want to highlight with you, Donna, is in specific is you bring your heart to all of what you do. And I think that shows in all of your presentations because you're not there talking about, well, I do the thing and I do PrimaDona and I do PowerApps. You're constantly bringing others along with you and talking about how the underdog can use PowerApps and anybody can use PowerApps and you can do it to make this better. And look at what this person did. You're always highlighting somebody in your talks. You're bringing people along with you. You're showcasing what other people can do and how they've magnified who they are. And I just think that's beautiful. And I think it's why you're very talented in what you do.
Oh, Holly, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think that's the difference.
It's so important to hero make customer. We in tech think we're really smart. And I'm like, in fact, we're idiots, but whatever. And the issue is making something that is difficult to use is such a failure. Because if people don't use your product, they don't like your product, they're not going to use it again. They're sure as shit not going to recommend it to others. So you are a dumbass if you do that. And I tell everyone that, like, I don't care how fancy ass your product is. If people can't use it without like lots of hand holding and supervision, you have messed up so bad because now you've spent a bunch of time and money. And now they're like, they feel stupid. When your customer feels stupid, it's like feeling bad in clothes. They're never going to want to deal with you again.
Yeah.
Never.
It's got to be
right. A good point, because it used to be that tech was like so complicated. You needed, a degree to be able to do it. I think now you just need to be willing to learn a little bit, and it should be easy.
That's right.
It basically, if your software is too hard to learn, like Donna says, you wasted your money, right? It should be simple and easy. I shouldn't have to think about it. It should just work.
And it should actually solve a problem, not create more.
If I'm just buying shit just to buy shit, but it's got to solve my problem, but it's got to be simple and easy. I shouldn't need an encyclopedia to be able to make it work, right? I shouldn't have to put custom scripts and jerry-rig it with Band-Aids and bubblegum. It should just freaking work with a few clicks.
Well, and what I like about PowerApps is that it's helped everybody. So obviously we know Windows and Outlook and PowerPoint, like anybody can use that, from the home to the school to the hospital, the hotel. I mean, any vertical. But what I found really interesting about a year ago at the C&E level, all hands, Scott Guthrie gave the story about multiple schools that have used PowerApps to make their job better, to help their students, to help the teachers. And so it became this trickle-down effect, and they were blown away by what they could do. And you could see the level of confidence on them. And I love that, because there's not just one of those stories. There's multiple. And so I think that this is a very humanized technology, because it's helped an abundance of people, tech and non-tech.
Yeah. And what I like is most of our stories are of non-tech people doing the thing. Right? People who, there's a guy who's a bricklayer in our community who's used it to transform his life and now works at a corporation in IT. That's freaking sweet. I'm down in Barbados putting on the best PowerApps event that's ever happened. And I just randomly decided that that's what it's going to be, because the people here are incredibly passionate. They have a ton of problems to solve and digitize. And I'm like, why not? This is the only event we're going to put on this year. It's going to be amazing, only real in-person event. So it's going to be the best event of 2020. That's not saying very much, but it's going to be.
It was an event in 2020. That's saying a lot, Donna.
Yes, it is.
Best event 2020. They're like, is it the only one? I'm like, yeah, that's cool though, because it is indeed the best. But they're so excited. Yeah, let's do this. Government, schools, small businesses, large businesses. Let's bring everyone. I'm like, yeah, bring everyone. Bring the whole freaking island. I don't care.
So Donna, with 3 minutes to wrap, if you were going to land one message, one thing, one update, one thing to really land with our audience about PowerApps, Power Platform, what would it be?
It would be, first, identify a real problem in your life. 2, see if you can use Power Platform to solve it. Even if you think you need to go and learn C++ to solve it, you can probably solve it using PowerApps. I say this as someone who is a C++ developer. I've been a C++ dev since 1998. And this is the first year I've admitted that C++ is not the answer to all of life's coding problems. And it's shocking. And I felt like maybe I should be fired, but it's true. PowerApps, in fact, can solve more problems than C++. I know. So do those 2 things. And 3, teach one person. That's all.
Again, taking other people along with you on your journey. Donna, thank you so much. Ruby's making a special appearance. Everybody say hi to Ruby.
Hi, Ruby.
All right, if we're doing this, everybody say hi to Poppy.
Oh, Poppy. They're so cute.
She has a necklace and a little. She's spoiled.
Wow.
Donna, thank you so much for taking time at 9 p.m. in Barbados to have a drink with us and chat about your passion with, PrimaDona and PowerApps, and how all the side hustles, and as you bring people along with you and make everybody the hero in the story. It's been a pleasure. Everybody, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of The Current Status. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.